Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to a Fresh Stories book chat. I am incredibly excited about today's conversation, mostly because I knew about this book long before you guys did, and I got to read an advanced copy, and it's phenomenal. It's going to start a lot of cultural conversations. So, before I get into why I love this book, let's introduce Fortesa. This is her book baby that she's been working on for a long time. So, can you introduce yourself and then we'll jump into the book?
Yes. Hi, I am Fortesa Latifi. I am a journalist and the author of Like, Follow, Subscribe, Influencer Kids, and the Cost of a Childhood Online.
Okay, so my I was thinking about this conversation because I actually talked to you when you were still interviewing for the book and talking to people for the book, and I've been following you for a long time, and everything you do is phenomenal. I don't know how you do it all, but my one question for you is why? Why are you so
Yeah.
obsessed with this?
I mean, how could you not be?
I mean,
It's
I
just,
am. I'm just saying, like,
yeah.
you're a
I,
little younger than me, so I'm just
yeah.
curious where it came
Yeah.
from.
Honestly, I've thought about this too, and I'm 32, and I grew up in like the 16 and pregnant era of MTV. And like a few years ago, I was watching Teen Mom, like the spinoff of 16 and Pregnant, and the kids who were born on the show were like shaving their legs for the first time. And I was like, this is so weird because this is also like what happens on YouTube. And then I started thinking about the difference between reality TV and influencer kids. And then I just had too many questions and I had to go down a rabbit hole.
And what a rabbit hole it has been, my friend.
Yeah.
So take us through. Okay, so you started researching all of this stuff. Where did the idea for the book come from?
Yeah, I mean, it was just that every time I did a story, they did so well and people were so fascinated and I was so fascinated and I felt like every time I finished a story, I still had so many questions left. And so, I mean, you know how it goes with books and congratulations on your
Oh,
book. I
thank
can't
you,
wait
thank
to
you,
read it.
thank you.
But we started getting outreach to my agent from publishing houses and they were like, "Does she have a proposal?" And I was like, "Yeah, just tell them I do and that I need like a week to finish, and I didn't have one, but I
Yeah,
was like, "I have to strike while the iron is hot." I was also 7 months pregnant, and I was just like got really manic about writing the proposal, and we had a few meetings, and we ended up at Gallery, which is an imprint of Simon& and Schuster, and yeah, we're thrilled.
it's amazing. So I've read the book. It's fantastic. It's probably my favorite type of book, which is that intersection between motherhood and culture and pop culture and what the hell is happening here, right? So there's
Yeah.
like a lot of questions. So can you take us through what is Like, Follow, Subscribe about?
Yeah, I mean, it's basically about what it's like to be the child of an influencer or a kid influencer yourself. It's about mom influencers and family vloggers and what is really going on behind the scenes, what these parents are grappling with, because they are grappling with questions of consent and privacy and online footprints and AI. And so it's just a look into this industry and really a look from the people who are in the middle of it.
It's fascinating. I for people don't know, I have a very weird background with influencer culture. I've been on the different sides of it for many, many, almost 20 years, and I
Yeah.
dipped my toe in it for a couple years after my second son was born because I was working for a baby registry company, and so I would get all the products, and I still have thousands of pictures on my phone of my son in the same position over and over again trying to get the right one.
Oh my
And
gosh.
then I managed influencers. I managed about 20 influencers for a couple of years. Never again, by the way. I will never do that again. Um,
Why?
it was well, so many reasons. Number one is I think that at the time, and probably still now, this was about 10 years ago, there was still such a deep mistrust of influencers and like
Yeah.
disrespect. And so most of my job was chasing down money. So how do you even embark on a book like this with research? Where did that begin?
Yeah, I mean, it started with a spreadsheet, as all good stories do, and I just made an exhaustive list of every influencer, parent blogger, family vlogger, mom influencer that I wanted to talk to, and I started reaching out, and then I started another tab on the spreadsheet of every expert that I could find, and then I started another tab for academic research, and there's actually much more academic research into this topic than you would expect.
Yeah, yeah, and that's something I took away from the book was it's not goofy. This is not like a silly book about this
No.
topic. This is a really well-researched educational like people will use this in college to study, like, to
Thank
really
you.
I can see it. Like, they will study influencer culture and families. So, what is something that you learned when you were doing the research for this that blew your mind?
I had several family bloggers and mom influencers go on the record with me and say that the content that does best for them is content where their child is sick or sad or injured. And that was really difficult to hear.
Yeah. Yeah. And let's just say it what it is. Like, you're writing this book in this time period that everybody's kind of talking about. Culturally, there's a lot of things happening with children and
Yeah.
voyeurism. So,
Yeah.
was that something that came up in your conversations with these people about their daughters per se and people on the internet?
Yeah, I mean, it came up in most conversations, I would say, where people would kind of tell me, okay, we've gotten these nasty messages, we've gotten these pedophilic messages, and this is how we handled it. And I think what was fascinating to me and pretty troubling was that most people had an experience where they had gotten those kind of messages, but it didn't seem to change the way that they approached content, which was hard to understand, as a mother myself.
100%. And I will say that I've scaled back, and you also don't share your daughter very much at
No.
all. I don't share my kids anymore really at all because it just doesn't seem fair to them, right, after a certain period
Yeah.
of time. Which brings me to my other question, which is why do you think most of these families got into this industry?
I mean, I think that we all are always playing the viral lottery, especially in America where, the middle class is vanishing and wages aren't keeping up with the cost of living. And the cost of sending a child to childcare is as much oftentimes as one parent's entire salary. It's like, why not just give it a shot? And like, if it hits, it'll change your entire life. And if it doesn't, no harm done.
It's fascinating. That's such a patriarchal, capitalistic way to look at it, which is true, right? That is the
Yeah.
reason a lot of women and I will say that I've talked to so many influencers that because they were an influencer, it enabled them to make money as a stay-at-home parent and leave their
Yeah.
marriages, right? Which is a
Yeah.
really interesting, kind of thread there. So, you also wrote this book while you were in the early stages of motherhood. What
Yeah.
is that like to be you're paid to write a book that you have a deadline
Yes.
for and you are postpartum?
I mean, honestly, I think that having the book deadline was the best thing that happened to me postpartum because I had a terrible pregnancy. I'm in the middle of another terrible pregnancy right now. I mean, knock on wood, like as bad as pregnancy can be without the baby not
Anything,
being
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And then I had an extremely traumatic birth with my first daughter. And afterwards, I just felt completely lost. Like I was coming out of 10 months of, I have hyperemesis gravidarum when I'm
Mhm.
pregnant. And so I throw up every single day, all day. I mean, you can see my entire eye is black from throwing
Mhm.
up so much. It's like, it's a mess. So I felt totally lost regardless. I mean, I think many women feel lost in the postpartum period, even without bad pregnancies and
Yeah.
bad births. Um, I felt like a body that purely existed to rock my daughter to sleep and make milk for her. And I didn't feel like a person. And a couple weeks, I think 2 or 3 weeks maybe postpartum, basically when I could start sitting up from my crash C section, I took out my laptop and I started writing again. And my family, especially my husband and my mom, were like, we need you to take a second and like rest. And I was like, no, I don't think I need to I mean, I was resting, I was laying on the couch and holding the
Yeah.
baby, but I was like, "I need work. I feel like myself when I'm
Yeah.
working." And it really saved me, I think, postpartum, having that deadline and having something to work on.
Yeah, I get that. I worked very quickly after the birth of my second son too. So, who would you say this book is for?
I think anyone who's ever wondered what the hell is it like to be a child influencer or what is going through these parents' minds. I mean,
Yeah.
it's fascinating, and the more that I write stories about this and the more that I work on getting the book out there, people are fascinated by this topic.
Were you always a kid like that was fascinated by sociology in this way?
I think so, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm a journalist, like,
Right.
I was always, like, a curious kid, like, I always wanted to know. I'm very nosy, I always wanted to know what other people were thinking, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Was it fun to write this book as hard as it was?
I had a blast. It was the hardest and most fulfilling and most fun thing I've ever done professionally. Um Especially being postpartum and trying to juggle, like, pumping and taking care of the baby and rocking her to sleep, and,
Mhm.
there were so many times that I would just put her in the baby wrap and just hold her on me, like, while I was writing, and it was really hard, and it was also, like, the skills needed to write a book are so radically different than the skills needed to write a story,
Yeah.
and I don't think I realized that. Like, I was like, "I'm a writer, I can do this, like, easy," and it was not easy.
Mm-mm. No, no, it's not. I very much understand. So where can we get this book and when does it come out and how can people follow you? And I'm assuming you're putting the book tour on hold for a little bit, but
Yeah, for a little bit. Although we
eventually.
do have we have an event on April 9th in Los
Okay.
Angeles. So if you're in Los Angeles, it's at Skylight Books at 7 p.m. The book comes out on April 7th, and you can buy it anywhere that you buy your books. And you can find me anywhere online at Hi Fortesa, HIFORTESA.
Amazing. And we will put the link in the show notes. And I'm
Yeah.
obviously very excited to promote this and share it because it is just a fascinating topic that it's almost historical, right? Because really
Yeah.
this has been around in some capacity forever, right? Like even
Yeah.
Shirley Temple was an actress, but she was somebody had to put her on stage, right? So,
Totally.
so this is
Totally.
something that I think is just an evergreen conversation. And I will say that it's an easy read and that it's not heavily like there's nothing that's gonna like be like, oh, I have to read that 500 times to understand what you're
Yeah.
saying. If you're somebody that loves Bravo and Real Housewives and all of that good stuff, you will love this because it's just a
Yeah.
deep it's a perfect, like, beach read, plane read, and even if
Yeah.
you're chasing your kids around the park, you can sit and read it. So I'm very excited for people to read it, and, I'm just thrilled that it came to life, and I love the cover also, by the way.
Oh
It
my
is
god, isn't it
adorable.
beautiful?
So great, so beautiful, so
Yeah.
brilliant. It's just so brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
Well, major congrats to you on all of the
Thank
things.
you.
And, we'll have to have you come back again to talk about this topic more because I think it's just a fascinating topic. But,
Yeah.
feel good and go buy this book because everybody should read, like, follow, subscribe, Influencer Kids and the Cost of a Childhood Online. Documentary
Yeah.
next, I hope.
Yeah, stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Thanks so much, Fortessa.
Thank you for having me.